Welcome to Halifax Sports Talk. It's Monday, January 26th. Andrew and Dayton with you, and we are here to recap the last three games of the Halifax Mooseheads Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. In the process, we'll try and stay warm. It's a very cold day here in the Maritimes. Dayton, good Monday to you, man. How are you?
Well, not too bad. Usually we've got a little more to talk about, but the Thunderbirds on an off week, like Jeremy said last week, they got the off week. He didn't. And this week, Mother Nature did not take an off week either. She dumped snow on us big time. So, Andrew, I hope you're staying nice and cozy up in the city. How you doing?
Pretty good. Went to my first Moosehead game of the season over the weekend. I'll tell you what, it was probably the longest gap in a long time for me going to the Metro Center. And, it was nice to be back. And I'll tell you what, like we were talking about it with Jeremy on Thursday, and you and I have talked about it a lot. But, man, the city is packing that arena. Like, I remember when I was younger, it was cool to see like the lower bowl flooded at that arena. And then it was like playoff time. You'd get like halfway up the upper bowl. And then if it was a really, really big game, you'd get like the whole upper bowl where you can't even really see the ice that was filled because it was a big playoff game. Now, with just the two PWHL games, with the Thunderbirds, with the Mooseheads, and then the Wanderers in the summer, like this city we always knew was a sports city. But man, oh man, like it was a really, really busy arena. Great vibes there. And Friday night, man, it was a really good time.
You know what they should bring back for like a Thunderbirds theme night? Because one of the team colors, the orange chairs. You remember those?
Yes.
You'd walk down the folding like chairs. Oh my gosh. Not the most comfortable thing to sit in for like a 60-minute hockey game, but brings back some nostalgia.
Hey, the only thing about those orange chairs is that you had a little more space between your chairs. Now that when Scotiabank became a sponsor, I think they added like 300 or 400 more seats, and that made someone as tall as I am a little bit more crammed when you sit down to watch a game. But it was a 1-2 weekend for the Halifax Mooseheads. However, they come away with 3 points with the overtime loss to close out the weekend. Started off tough though. With a loss against the Cape Breton Eagles. We'll take a look here. 5-1. And you know what? That loss, it seems like when this team gets off to a tough start, it's hard for them to recover, Dayton. They got off to a tough start. First period didn't go their way, and Cape Breton didn't look back from there.
Yeah, like you said, the first period definitely didn't go their way. It was a couple of goals right off the bat, and it was the first goal from Raul Boilar, a big addition for the Eagles coming over. It wasn't his first goal, but it was his first goal at home with the club, so a good way for him to start off his journey up in the hockey island, they like to call it. Daniel Walters, we were just talking about him a couple minutes ago before we recorded. The lone goal for the Mooseheads, so great to see Walters kind of being consistent, I guess you would say. We talked about him being a role player and playing his roles. He's not always scoring the big ones, but scoring consistently and scoring at a pace that obviously is getting him noticed, as we just saw him on the central scouting rankings. But like you just mentioned, not the best outing for the Mooseheads. 5-1 the final, and I don't really know what to say about this. It's just not the type of performance you want to see, and it was an undisciplined performance from the Mooseheads. A lot of penalties in this one.
Undisciplined is right. I mean, looking at the early start didn't go their way, and they almost tried to respond with physicality. And I think with the youth of this team, and maybe the size that they're lacking a little bit, it can be a little tough to try and answer back with physicality. But they've struggled with those front half of back-to-backs, which is very weird because a lot of teams you would think would struggle with the second half of back-to-back here, Dayton. But recently, at least in my memory, the front halves have caused them a little bit of trouble. But maybe a part of that has something to do with the fact that the front halves of back-to-backs have seemed to be on the road a lot more. So let's take a look at the next one. And this is the game that I was at. 6-3 win for the Halifax Mooseheads. So it was a big turnaround for them. But there was one key player that was missing from this one because of a fight Friday night, final few minutes of the game against the Eagles. And I'll tell you what, these rules, they kind of bother me. but now you miss a player because of scrap. And you talk about penalties and frustration. They really, really kind of felt the pain from that one, missing a key player.
Definitely. And could you imagine, like, this was an offensive game to begin with, 6-3, 9 goals in total. Could you imagine if their second most offensive player behind Oleg Kulibiakin was in the lineup for this one? Maybe 8 or 9 goals on the Moosehead side. Who knows what Quinn Kennedy would have added offensively to spark his group. But like you said, that rule that came in and changed the league up a few years ago, it's not often that we see fights. And I'm actually kind of surprised that Kennedy fought, to be honest. He's not like that type of player. Like I just mentioned, he's their second leading scorer. You don't really see that like too often, but Connor McDavid fought at one point, so everyone gets their rounds, right?
Yeah, you kind of love to see it. Fighting means that you cared, right? If you didn't care, you'd be up in the press box wearing a tank top like William Nylander, flipping off the media. Like he's someone that actually cares. I think if you fight towards the end of the game, you're not just rolling over. You're not just pretending that it didn't happen. 5-1 loss against the Eagles. And, it definitely is frustrating because you face that suspension, and it's tough with the goal separation, the goal difference. And of course, with how much time was left in the game, you face that suspension, which is really tough. But hey, the Mooseheads responded. And speaking of guys that continue to respond, well, you just talked about it. Danny Walters, he's responding after being named on that NHL prospect list. 3 goals for him over the weekend. I tweeted out from our account, HFX Sports Talk, that he was on hat trick watch on Friday night. They had him out there for about a minute and a half with the goalie pulled. I would have loved to have seen him be the one to get the empty net goal, to get that hat trick. But the storyline here in this one, I will say, this team got off to a really good start. Dominant first period. There was action on both ends, though. Circa did make some key saves, but possession-wise, the Mooseheads were moving the puck around really well, seemed to play really confident. Shots from the point, I thought the D-corps did a really good job activating. But the fact of the matter is here, we talk about Friday night being an undisciplined night for the Halifax Mooseheads. I got to say, man, this was a good power play night for the Halifax Mooseheads, but it was my first time at the Scotiabank Center for a game in a while, and it was not where I went to see. And I didn't go to see the referee show. I went to watch the Mooseheads play against the Phoenix. And unfortunately, I saw the ref show in the first period. You're muted there, Dayton.
I just have to say, Andrew, I didn't realize that the William Nylander thing was actually live on a broadcast.
Yeah.
Because in the video that I watched, you could hear Gord Miller and Mike Johnson actually like talking about it and saying, "Oh, William, like, why'd you do that?" But that's besides the point. A great job for the Halifax Mooseheads. And I just want to talk. Actually, we'll get to that in the next game. That's when I'll bring out my good point about the Mooseheads. All I'll say for right now is good win, good start to what could have been a good weekend.
Of 100%. They brought the offense. The key players showed up. And like I said, some great shots from the point as well. I felt like the defensemen played really well. Carlos Handel, the first star of the night, several assists on the night. And just overall, I mean, goals, assists. I thought all the defensemen looked really, really good. But Carlos Handel looked comfortable out there, getting in the mix with some of the scrums as well. But you've been seeing a lot on social media where, and this is across the queue, not just in the Mooseheads, where a lot of the comments and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, and it's comments of these scrums, and the comments will say, not one single glove on the ice, right? And I understand the fighting rule, and we saw what happened to Quinn Kennedy getting the suspension, so why would you put your gloves on the ice, I guess? But it's so funny. Like, there was a hit from behind early in the game, in the Mooseheads and Sherbrooke game, and nobody really drops their gloves. They, they do a little bit of pushing and cross-checking or whatever. And I actually went with a friend that's from the UK, only been in Canada actually for a couple years. And so when talking hockey with him, we were talking about fighting and, how it's part of the game and policing the game. And there must have been 3 different times where I looked at him and said, 5 or 6 years ago, there would have been a fight because of that. 2 or 3 years ago, there would have been at least something because of that. And there just wasn't. And I'm not here to sit on the show and just say, hey, look, there should just be a bunch of these guys going out there and fighting more. But I still believe, and I'm going to stand on this hill, that the repercussions for dirty plays are inexistent right now in the QMJHL. Players feel right now they can hit somebody from behind, they can spear them, they can do anything, they can, charge the goalie, they can do whatever it takes because there's no repercussions right now ever since the QMJHL banned fighting. And if you're going to suspend players for 2 games because they decided to fight late in the game, so be it. And I understand players can feel more comfortable skating around now, and you don't want younger players in junior hockey fighting, and I get that. I think stage fighting should be removed from the game. But sticking up for your teammates, I'm telling you, 2 or 3 of the plays that I saw, Dayton, on Friday night probably wouldn't have happened if you were able to drop the mitts and have a go after somebody hurt your teammate. And I'm just telling you, things have changed. I'm just telling you, things have changed as far as the referees are concerned. And the last thing I'll say with my rant here, I'm really tired of hockey overall when it's a scrum and the referees just come in and take both guys off. 2 for each for roughing. One of the Sherbrooke players, I don't remember his name. I think you can probably pull up if you have the game sheet in front of me. He got tossed. He was the first ejection of the game. He got tossed. And I looked at the people I was sitting with, and I straight up said, I don't blame him for being upset right now. A Mooseheads player knocked him over, and then he hit him with a little slash back or something like that. But whatever the Moosehead player did to him was far, far worse to what he did to the Moosehead player. So he thought there was no way in hell that there should have only been 4-on-4, 2 minutes each. It just didn't make sense to him. And now I'm not saying that he should abuse the official and say whatever he did say, but I'm getting a little bit tired of how no matter what happens in these scrums, it's just, hey, 2 each for roughing. Let's play it out 5-on-5 or 4-on-4. Doesn't really seem fair to me. So there was a lot of scrums, a lot of sticking up for each other. It had a real good feel. You know what the game really had on Friday night? It had the feeling that one team lost Thursday 5-1. That's what it had. And you know what? I'll give head coach Brad McKenzie some credit because he knows how to get his team fired up on a bounce back. Should they be losing 5-1 in the first game of the weekend? Probably not, but he knows how to get them back on track. But I'm telling you, if these players have no repercussions for hitting guys from behind, for boarding calls, they got something coming to them the next time they go play at a different tournament at the next level of hockey, when you've got somebody giving you no choice, dropping their mitts and saying, hey, buddy, we're going right now, because it seems like you can do anything in the queue right now and you just can get away with it.
Yeah, that might not be the best thing. I did check it. Flora Uhl is the player that got tossed for the hit from behind. Like you said, might not have been the best call, but it could also have been some repercussions of some players or the result of players not feeling the repercussions. And that's never a good thing in junior hockey. And it's something that the QMJHL might have to look at. I know I've been an advocate of maybe fixing the fighting rule a little bit. I know the WHL and OHL, you're still allowed to drop the gloves. And especially when the Memorial Cup time comes at the end of the season, players are allowed to drop the gloves. So it's something that could always happen. And I think it's always going to be a part of the game. So I don't really know why they tried to take it out. Limiting it, yes, I understand. But taking it out of the game completely is what the QMJHL wanted to do and was intending to do with all of that, and didn't get too far. And I'm kind of glad. I don't know if that's the thing I should say, but I'm glad that the fighting was not abolished completely. I'll say that.
For sure. And I got to say, though, that 5-minute boarding call was the right call to make. It was right in the numbers. I think it was a greasy call. And it's kind of cool when you're at the arena, especially, and like they have the review going on, like they got the headsets on. They actually turn the monitor around. The referees are reviewing it, and you're just waiting. You're waiting to see what would happen. And as everybody knows, when it's a major penalty, you can score as many goals as you want during that span. The penalty doesn't get wiped away, and the Mooseheads made them pay. So goals early on from Carrier, from Danny Walters, and a 4-point night from Carlos Handel. So a great night overall for the Halifax Mooseheads. Although I will say one thing, that second period, that's something that can't happen. That second period was your prototypical bounce back period where Sherbrooke put a few goals up on the board. Don't forget, there was an empty net goal in this game as well. So, this game is more of a 5-3 style game, and it got a little bit sweatier than it probably should have. And that's a real big thing for a young team. When you get that lead, and obviously I'm not saying you're fortunate to have gotten that power play because it was a great call that was made for an unfortunate boarding. When you take advantage of a power play, it's 5 minutes long and you get up, you have to protect that lead.
Yeah, that's definitely something the Mooseheads need to kind of work on once they get the lead, controlling the lead. Something I did like about one of the tournaments recently, and something that you mentioned, Andrew, the replay. They did that at the Spengler Cup, and on the broadcast, they mic'd up the referees, and I think I talked about this a couple episodes ago, but they mic'd up the referees, mic'd up the goal judges. I think that's something that leagues should start doing just all the time. Let me hear the referee. Let me hear why he made the call. And if there's why not give the referees a post game after the game for 2 minutes to answer questions about calls? Do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Involve
I've seen
them
that in the NBA. Like in the NBA now, you're actually able to challenge a call every game. And after the call is the call has been determined, either overturned or it stays the same way as it is, the referee gets on the mic and speaks to the entire arena. With what because you won't see that in the NHL. They're going to just say, hey, the call on the ice was confirmed, it was a penalty or whatever. They're not going to explain exactly what happened. I would love to them to say the call on the ice is reversed. The player, turned at the last minute or whatever. It wasn't a boarding call. Because that's what people were worried about a little bit for the boarding call on Friday was, maybe they didn't get him right in the numbers. But yeah. Although I will say again, it was still a physical game. There still was a lot of physicality there. It felt like there was a little bit of there were some hookings that I was like, okay, that's questionable. It felt like there was a real big promotion of tight called game, which is okay as long as it gets called on both ends. But the only thing I don't like, I find in junior hockey, special teams dominates the play. A lot of times when I'm doing my handicapping for NHL betting, I love to look at 5-on-5 numbers, analytics and information, because it's hard to skew power play and penalty kill. You can't really explain that, but 5-on-5 is where you really learn about what a team is all about. So you were talking about, moving into the next game and having a good start and being able to protect it. Well, it's a good segue because they're up 2-0 against Drummondville in the first period. And unfortunately for them, that's all she wrote in that game for that team.
Andrew, it was tough. Sunday afternoon, the snow's coming. The 18-year-olds on the team, the 17-year-olds on the team, they're pumped. They're not going to have to go to school the next day. It's a great Sunday in Halifax, and you're up 2-0 at the start of the first period. What could be better? Not the Drummondville Voltigeurs coming back and sending you to overtime. That's for sure. Owen Keefe, Maxime Lafont, 2 straight goals, and then the overtime winner by Olivier Baudry. So definitely a game that the Voltigeurs kind of were able to come back. They're one of the top teams in the West for a reason. And we all remember the series last year, 7 games. It came down to 7 games, and the Mooseheads were able to beat them. But a more experienced team that's made some moves in the Drummondville Voltigeurs. Their captain, Matteo Rotundi. That's his name, Matteo Rotundi, playing in St. John's the other week. So he's definitely got a little bit of swagger behind him. He went home, played a couple of games in front of the family, got the win on the first night, so he's feeling it. I think this is a Drummondville team that is looking to bounce back off of a upset last year, and move forward into the playoffs. It was tough for Halifax. The thing I wanted to touch on is that if this was a win of any sorts instead of the 3-2 loss in overtime, I know they still get a point, but even if they get that extra point, it just makes a world of difference. You get the 1-1-1 record or a 1-2 record, and people will say, oh, they got 2 points out of a possible 4. But if you get that 3, or even if with the third point, they'll still say it's an unsuccessful weekend. It will take that second win, that second game in the win column to actually make people think like, oh, hey, this is a good weekend for the Mooseheads. If they're not diving into it like we are now, they're just looking on paper. They're just going to say, oh, if there's not a 2 in that win column, unsuccessful weekend. But I really do think if you take a look at it and you say, oh, the Mooseheads were quite literally 1 goal away from having a 2 in that win column, you can't really say much about that. It's not the worst thing that could happen. It's not the end of the world. They could have quite literally also went 0 for 6 on the weekend in points possible points. So yeah.
At least we're getting back to that feeling. And you mentioned, they're 1 goal away from, winning that game, but they're getting back to that vibe of, hey, look, we want to be in games. And it's so weird because a lot of the times you would think a team would end the weekend with their weakest effort, but it seems like this team needs like a kick in the ass to wake up a lot of times, and then they really get their weekend going. I'd love to try and map this out. I'm going to take a look at it before our Thursday show. It seems to me like to start each week, it's their weakest game of the week, which typically it would be like the opposite. Like the most fatigued game should be your worst game probably, especially with a young team, but they seem to be a team that starts off week slow. So maybe I'll try and pull up a calendar and see how that's gone. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's especially because they were on the road. They definitely have been feeding off the Metro Center vibes and the home crowd. As I mentioned, 7,000-8,000 people showing up on like a nightly basis, it seems like, which is really great for them. But look forward to breaking things down, talking about the next few games that they'll be involved in on Thursday. And of course, the Halifax Thunderbirds back in action. Of course, we're going to try and update you guys on some Wanderers info. And maybe we're going to get into some AUS talk as well. AUS hockey, AUS basketball. We're into the thick of things now. We're going to try and get you guys set up for probably some AUS tournaments coming up in not too long. I think a month or two, it's time for the AUS playoffs. So this is Halifax Sports Talk, guys, and we are here twice a week bringing you guys up-to-date information with everything local. Dayton, any closing thoughts?
Well, there was one thing that you brought to my attention before we recorded. Do you want to touch on that?
Let's do it. Yeah, go ahead. I forgot.
All right, sweet. Well, we all know about it. We all know who this guy is. Jacob Melanson plays for the Seattle Kraken. As of now, got called up again from Coachella. Talked to you last week about Jacob Quillen getting called up to from the Marlies to the Leafs. And it seems like I was like, oh, we shouldn't touch on it because he gets called up like all the time. But now I'm starting to think about this, or starting to think this way about Melanson. He's getting called up all the time. Like, but when is it just going to be that he's a mainstay on the roster? I think he's been playing pretty well. And I see people posting about him all the time. Whenever he's up in the lineup, he's making something happen. Here, he's making a record for a hit record. Not something you see very often, but from an East Coaster, it doesn't surprise me at all. 76 hits, or 75 hits in 16 games, and it's ranked 3rd among Kraken skaters this season. I think he's doing pretty well up with the big club. And if you ask me, I think he deserves a spot to stay. Andrew, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, you want a player that's not just scoring goals, but bringing everything. Franchise record for the most hits in a single game with 10. Like, I love it. I love to see it. 10 hits, 1 game, January 23rd versus the Ducks. And I'll tell you what, like, yes, he's a goal scorer. Yes, he's meant to be an offensive weapon. But this is what coaching staffs are looking for. Jacob Melanson bringing it both ends of the ice, bringing the physicality, 10 hits, 1 game. You love to see it from the Amherst guy. And I'll tell you what, a coach should look at this and say, hey, I can trust this guy to bring an impact to the game, even if he's not scoring. And I feel like that's what coaches are looking for from guys that are coming up from the minors, because you're not going to score every night. You're not going to get shots or assists or anything every night, but you have to be able to impact the game. And hey, if you're putting that up on the screen, on the jumbo screen with this, I mean, 10 hits in one game. Clearly, he's impacting the game. So I love to see that. You always hear that term, right? Impact. How are you impacting the game? And well, 10 hits in one single game. I know he's not really the fighter tough guy, but sounds like he's impacting the game in some way, shape, or form. So really good to see that from Jacob Millant. And you're right. Tired of seeing these guys go up and down, up and down, up and down. Keep him. Come on, Seattle. Keep him up there. He certainly deserves it, and he's working hard whenever he gets up there. So, guys, we'll always try and keep you up to date with local players doing their thing. And as promised, we're going to try and get more AUS University Sports Talk here on the show moving forward. But lots of stuff to get into with the Mooseheads, Thunderbirds, and all kinds of stuff more. Don't miss our episode on Thursday. Jeremy back with us, breaking down multiple sports and multiple games coming up. Thanks for watching. Make sure you guys leave a like on the way out, and make sure you find us on every single social media platform at Halifax Sports Talk. We'll see you guys next time. Same time, same place.